Hi there, this is Fitzgerald Mujuru, and I would like to discuss a topic that affects a lot of us, and that topic is procrastination. Now, in my experience, I've spoken to a lot of people, and each time in discussions, the issue of why things are not getting done, the issue of procrastination comes up, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to walk away with 5 proven strategies to stop procrastinating now. So procrastination is that number one trait that undoes most people than any other. Procrastination is the number one thing that undoes a lot of us in terms of our success, in terms of our productivity, in terms of our performance. So sometimes you may say that you have got a time management problem, but the problem really is procrastination. So procrastination then becomes the silent killer of dreams. It becomes a silent killer of achievement. With only so much time in a day, it is crucial to use our time adequately. Unfortunately, procrastination is a common habit. Why are we doing these live videos? We are doing them so that if you catch the essence of this presentation, you'll be able to walk away with 1 or 2 things that will result in behavioral change. So we only have so much time to do certain things in a day, and it's important that we redeem that time. Unfortunately, procrastination is a very common habit, and we're all guilty of it. And it interrupts our ability to make the most of our time. Procrastination is productivity's worst enemy. So to procrastinate means to delay a task or even several tasks that should be a priority. To procrastinate means to delay a task or even a number of tasks that should be a priority. But the tasks don't go away. They simply pile up. So let's do a self-check and assess ourselves in terms of the subject of procrastination. Do you do any of these things? Do you avoid planning out your day because you have so much to do? You'd rather just get stuck in. Or do you end up filling your day with low priority tasks and email? I'm talking to the entrepreneur. I'm talking to the business person. I'm talking to that person who's at work and is saying, I've got too much to do. Are you guilty of saying to yourself, I'll do it later, but I never get round to later? You know, I do a lot of article writing for publications, and one of the things that is a constant is deadlines. But you know, when you get the assignment to write, the deadline always seems to be far away. And normally, just before the deadline, it gets done. So we are guilty of, I'll do it later, but we never get round to doing it later. But when forced to do it by the deadline or honoring the commitment, we then end up doing it. Sometimes we read emails several times before eventually responding to it, filing it, or deleting it. Sometimes we complete tasks for other people with vigor, but we run out of time to do our own. One of my favorite topics these days is people pleasing. You know, when you're a people pleaser, when it comes to helping other people finish their work, you respond with vigor. But when it's time to do your own, you run out of steam. Is that you? Or maybe sometimes we finally start a high priority task only to make a phone call, check WhatsApp, Facebook, make a cup of tea, or check our emails instead of doing that high priority task. That results in procrastination. Or do you repeatedly ignore or avoid doing an important task on your to-do list? See, I'm talking about procrastination, and I'm talking about some of the things that we are guilty of when it comes to procrastination. I am in that discussion because I find myself sometimes procrastinating. But we're going to help each other today to find ways to get around this disease. I don't call it a disease, it's a disease because it puts us at disease when we start now having to run around and clear our to-do lists. I know people that do to-do lists religiously, but the last time they check that list is when they write it. Your to-do list is a live document. It's what's happening throughout the day, and you are checking on it to see how far have I gone, what are the obstacles I'm facing. So if you are doing the things that I just mentioned, you are certainly procrastinating and you're not being as effective as you could be. We never talk about effectiveness and productivity in terms of outdoing each other, but we talk about it in terms of your personal best performance. So when you beat procrastination, you are now operating at your personal best performance. Somebody once said that time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is to say I don't want to. Time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is to say I don't want to. What I like about this quote is that it says we all have the same amount of time. If you consistently don't have time to do something, then you probably don't want to do it. And it's probably not important to you. Because if it's important, you'll find the time. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. So why do we keep dragging stuff around us until it becomes a weight that we can no longer bear? Procrastination is a human challenge. All of us in some way or at some time delayed, avoided, or postponed doing something despite our best intentions. It's human nature to put off uncomfortable or undesirable tasks, to make an easier choice in the moment, and yet, if something is important and it's a legitimate priority, it gets done at some point. So when procrastination becomes problematic is when it becomes unchecked and excessive. Earlier I said that we all procrastinate, but when you find yourself in a situation where procrastination is now unchecked and it's excessive, missed deadline upon missed deadline, you begin to miss opportunities, you are delayed, you underachieve or you unachieve goals, you begin to experience frustration and anxiety. Not to mention the possibility of negative self-talk. Not to mention the possibility of a negative perception by others. Because you develop the reputation in the workplace or with team members on a project that this one does not get things done. Let me tell you a secret on how to be a high achiever. Just be a person that gets things done. So my procrastination, your procrastination affects and impacts on those who we live and work with. Why do we procrastinate? We procrastinate due to a lack of confidence and self-esteem. Sometimes I don't feel I'm good enough to complete this task. Instead of getting help, I just postpone it. Instead of going back to the boss and saying, you know what, this is challenging for me. How can I make sure that I get it done? We don't do that. We procrastinate. And there's a loud inner critic. You know, there's that voice that tells you that, you know what, you've bitten more than you can chew. And when that voice speaks to you, you put it aside. And limiting beliefs. We have beliefs that limit our performance. We have beliefs that limit our productivity and effectiveness. And when we listen to those voices, when we start entertaining those limiting beliefs, we begin to procrastinate. And the fear of failure, what if I do it wrong? And then you just delay it because you feel you're going to do it wrong. And there's also the fear of success. Let's not assume that people are not afraid to succeed. What if I succeed and then things get out of control and then I'm suddenly busy and I'm in demand? You then procrastinate. And there's a fear, a real one, of appearing incompetent. Yes, let's imagine you've overcome the fear of failure. And then you start doing it. If I don't do this thing correct, I'll appear incompetent and people will think less of me. And there's also negative emotions associated with certain tasks. It's an unpleasant task, but it needs to be done. And the task or action sometimes conflicts with my personal values. You know what? I'm just doing it because I work here. Otherwise, I don't like to do this sort of thing. It's against my principles. It's against my values to do this sort of thing. And sometimes there are unrealistic expectations upon us. So when they are placed upon us, we don't say no. We don't challenge them because we fear reprisals. So we procrastinate. And there's also competing priorities. Let's face it, our lives are too busy. We are the most busiest of generations that has ever lived. So there are many things that are competing for our time. And there's also unmet needs. You procrastinate because, you know what, I'm doing this job, but I'm not even sure that this client is going to pay. So that need to be remunerated, sometimes it affects performance. And here's one more interesting reason. James Clear, in his book, Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones, the author points to behavioral psychology research for another possible reason, a phenomenon called time inconsistency. Time inconsistency refers to a tendency of the human brain to value immediate rewards more than future rewards. We value immediate rewards more than future rewards. So there is the present self and the future self. James Clear suggests that the best way to understand this is to imagine that you have two selves. Your present self, yourself in the now, and your future self. So when we set goals for ourselves, we are actually making plans for the future self. You are envisioning what you want your life to be like in the future. Researchers have found that when you think about your future self, it's easy for your brain to see the value in taking actions with long-term benefits. This is because our future self values long-term rewards. However, while the future self can set goals, only the present self can take the action to get us to where we want to be. So when it's time to take action, you are now in the present moment and your brain is thinking about the present self. It brings us to what many of us have come across called the urgent important matrix. So there's stuff that is urgent and important. And there's stuff that is important and not urgent. And there's stuff that is urgent and not important. And there's stuff that is not important and not urgent. Let me quickly run through this. So when you are in the urgent and important box, for lack of a better word, it's the box of necessity. That's where the crisis, the emergencies, the deadlines, the postponed tasks, that's where they are. The meetings are there. The last minute things are there. The demands are there. The pressing problems are there. We spend a lot of time in this box, and then we neglect the important but not urgent. Because the important, not urgent, appeals to the future self. The present self is dealing with what is urgent and important. So it's important, but it's not urgent. Things such as strategic planning. This is the box of quality. So the urgent, important box is the box of necessity. The box of quality, there's strategic planning. I'm actually planning strategically what I want to do. There's problem prevention. There's self-development. What we are doing right now, it's important, but it's not urgent. Health, quality relaxation, sleep, relationship building, working towards goals, new opportunities, follow up. So what's the strategy in the box of quality? That's what we should be focusing on. And on the box of necessity, you manage the box of necessity. And then there's the third box, the box of deception. It's urgent, but it's not important. These are the interruptions, some phone calls and some emails, other people's issues, shallow relationships, some meetings, some reports. It's urgent, but it's not important. It's a box of deception. Why is it a box of deception? It keeps you busy. It makes you look productive, but you're not producing. You avoid this one. And then there's the fourth box, the not urgent and not important. It's a box of waste. Social media, Netflix, analysis paralysis. You analyze the analysis and you analyze it again and again until it paralyzes you and you don't do anything about it. And then there's procrastination. All the procrastination activities that we do, sometimes it's people who are time wasters and will drain energy. You know, when you are busy in the not urgent, not important matrix, somebody says you are a busy fool. This one we must limit. So I just thought I should take you through the four. Of course, it's a whole subject on its own, which needs its own time to be devoted to it. But I'm going to share with you some 5 powerful strategies to shift procrastination behaviors. There are a multitude of strategies to help us shift procrastination behaviors, and we just want to focus on a few of them. The first strategy, number 1, reconnect to a higher purpose. When you find yourself procrastinating, reconnect to a higher purpose. A higher purpose is more meaningful, a more meaningful reason to live, work, etc. Reconnect to that purpose. Your why. Why are you in that job? Why are you pursuing that project? Why are you on that team? When you reconnect to it, you find that you procrastinate less and less. What is the intention or deeper significance in doing this? When you find that significance, the significance of the goal, you will find that you procrastinate less. So the second thing is visualize. Visualization, when it comes to beating procrastination, is important because it helps to prepare and teach us how to respond to a situation before it happens. You see it coming. You bring, remember we talked about the future self and the present self. So you bring the future into the present via visualization. So visualize the task, then visualize yourself working through it until completion. Visualization helps us achieve our goals by conditioning our brain to see, hear, and feel the success in your mind. Taste the success before it happens. A visual board of projects with steps to completion, as well as the important column of done as a motivator, is also a visualizing strategy. There are many kinds of visualization techniques that you can use. You can use a vision board. You can use mind maps. If it's a house that you want to build, I've seen most people in construction, you walk into their reception, there's the model of that city that they are building. it helps to bring the vision to life before it is actualized. The third strategy, start with easy. Yes, start with easy. In her book, The Long Game, How to Be a Long-Term Thinker in a Short-Term World, one of the strategies Dory Clark shares is to get started on projects that feel overwhelming by tricking yourself with an easy behavior change. How do you eat an elephant? They say one small bite at a time. Instead of focusing on the enormous task ahead, Clark says, create tiny habits that are so minuscule and doable that they're impossible to resist. Even the journey to the top of Mount Everest begins with one step. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step, says Martin Luther King Jr. Starting is very often the hardest part, so we procrastinate. The goal for any activity that feels overwhelming or where you feel nervous or fearful is to lower the bar. Break down the task. Yes, lower the bar. Break down the task into easy to achieve steps, which of course builds in more potential wins. And find a way to begin that does not require a lot of motivation. So when you find a way to win that does not require a lot of motivation, when you win, you get motivated. When you win again, the motivation builds up. Then once a behavior is started, it becomes easier to keep going. So sometimes getting started is all that you need. And motivation and momentum builds from there. Remember, momentum comes from little moments put together. Strategy number 4 is an acronym. It's STING, S-T-I-N-G. The S stands for select one task to do at a time. The T stands for time yourself no more than 1 hour. You know, sometimes when I'm writing, I also time myself like that to say, I'm going to write in 5-minute chunks. I've got a subject that I need to write about and I need to brainstorm. So I'm going to write continuously for 5 minutes, stop, 5 minutes, stop, 5 minutes, stop. And an hour later, I've probably written the 1,000 words that I wanted to write. So time yourself. I'm going to spend an hour on this task, move on to the next one, an hour on this task, move on to the next one. I stands for ignore. Ignore everything else during that time. Even your phone. Forget about it for that hour. And no breaks or interruptions. During the hour that I've said I am going to do task A, there will be no breaks, there will be no interruptions. I can take the break, I can take the interruption once the hour is over. I'm giving you strategies on how to overcome procrastination. The G stands for give yourself a reward when the time is up. We like to entertain ourselves. We like to play games. We like to also refresh. So give yourself that thing that you wanted to do for fun as a reward for finishing something that you've been procrastinating on. Strategy number 5, eat that frog first. Your frog is the task that that will have the greatest impact on achieving your goals. I'll take that again. Your frog is the task that will have the greatest impact on achieving your goals. And it's the task you are more likely to procrastinate starting. Why eat the frog? As famously quoted by Mark Twain, eat a live frog first thing in the morning and nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day. Your frog, it's disgusting to eat a frog. I've never eaten one, but I can imagine. Your frog is the task that will have the greatest impact on achieving your goals, and the task that you don't like doing the most. Remember, we talked about unpleasant tasks being one of the reasons why we procrastinate. It's probably a frog. Do that task first thing in the morning, and you won't have a harder task to do during the day. So next time you find yourself procrastinating, ask yourself these 3 questions. Do I really need to do it? If the answer is no, scratch it off the list and forget about it. The second question, am I not doing it because I don't know how to do it? If yes, then figure out what you need to know to get moving. Find a resource, an expert, a friend who knows. Attend a seminar, a webinar. Go online. Google. Read a book. Find a website that talks about it to give you the skills you need to get it done. The third thing, am I not doing it because it's stuff that I hate doing? If yes, outsource it. Sure, you're a small business and you can't afford to hire someone. But can you better afford to keep wasting time and energy beating yourself up for not doing it? Can you afford to keep missing opportunities? So because you can't afford, get someone else to do it. There are people that are consulting and they charge, their charges vary from whether you want a Rolls Royce or a 323. So you identify who you need. I mean, some of us are in the business of helping people get things done. You can actually, in fact, hire us. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless.